Hi everyone, welcome to today's session of Let's Talk. Today we will discuss about narcissistic personality disorder, also known as NPD. It's a personality disorder which prevents a person from caring for anyone else but only themselves. On the panel, we have Dr. Shefali Batra. She is a psychiatrist, mental health coach, and a founder of MindFrame. And she also recently published her book, Why Do I Feel So Sad, which is targeted at rewriting the brain for positivity. On the other hand, we have Meeta Gutgutia with us, who is the founder of Women Listed, co-founder of Sipping Thoughts, and co-founder of Funds and Petals. So I'll hand over the session to her.
Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you. Welcome, Shefali.
Hi.
Hi. So I must take this opportunity. We have started, I've started Women Listed recently. And when I used to search for experts, I never found them on Google. I always used to find male experts. So thankfully, beautifully, I saw you on, because when I'm doing a topic, I research my expert and panelists.
Women are just there doing all the work, but half the time it's so silent that you don't end up seeing them. Maybe that's another way, because I think there are so many women out there who are doing very good work, who are attaining high positions too, but we don't end up hearing about them as much as, the limelight goes to the men, I feel. But things are changing slightly. So I'm glad you found me, and I'm hoping we'll be talking more.
Thank you for exactly speaking what I felt in my journey of last 5 years of Sipping Thoughts. When I never found women, and when I connected, like even with you, when I read the article about narcissism, what you wrote, and I was said, wow, simply it's like exactly what I had been. And you won't believe, I have been looking to address this topic for last 3 years.
Wow. No, I have of late, I don't know, the same article that you read, the page on narcissistic personality, I have plenty of people calling in, because either it's just by virtue that Google has started putting up NPD, that page and that article. I have a lot of women calling in because they are in relationships with partners, not just women. Actually, I do have men also. So people calling in with information about narcissistic personality, and you don't realize it, because you're just in a relationship, you're in a marriage, you can't leave. And people are just astounded as to, why is my partner behaving like that? What am I supposed to do? So I have been looking at this topic a lot. In fact, I want to even launch a course on guiding and training people on a more consistent basis about how to deal with narcissistic personality. So it's not something which is new. I think it's been there since forever, but we're just talking about it more. So I think we need to have more conversations about, not that you leave a person who is NPD, but find a way to tackle with it better, find a way to deal with it better, to tackle it better, and not let it affect you yourself also negatively. So I think that's an important topic.
Yeah. So coincidentally, when the show was about to start, so we have our community chat, 2 groups on WhatsApp, which we talk. We were talking about marriage and the expectation and the experience after marriage. And exactly, Geeta, one person, she wrote about that I married a narcissist, and you won't imagine what was the life like. So it was like, oh my God, it's everywhere. And few years back, we never heard this term. So
like suddenly, I said, we didn't hear the term, but the problem was still there. So I think it's good that we're talking about it. We just thought, oh, this person is just a little selfish, this person is a little angry, gussa aata hai, and we think that theek hai, sabko aata hai. Like, I just have to deal with it. But it's a disorder. It's actually a serious problem, and it can be mended. There is a cure, but it takes a lot of effort. So it's both the individuals, it's families, it's everybody who's involved. So we need to help everyone out of it.
Since we talked about that, it's never been there, it's a new term. If you talk to the elder generation, they will say, to normal hai. Kabhi gussa aa jata hai, kaam ka pressure hota hai. Mostly, like even data says that it is mostly in men, like almost 1 to 2% of people have narcissistic personality disorder, and it's mostly men. So if we kind of identify, which we couldn't identify in the previous generation, how would we say that, let's identify, which our moms or parents couldn't
Could not see. Okay, so point number one, that is not that the problem is new. It's just that we are talking about it more now and we were not talking about it earlier. It was assumed that men, the world is changing in this regard. It was assumed that men are a little more boisterous. They are the sort of people in charge. And so it's okay if they get a little arrogant or a little attitude. And you would think that the man would order the woman around in, let's say, 50 to 100 years ago. That was normal. Do you think that a man can order a woman around today? It's not possible. So today it will appear abnormal. But back then it didn't appear abnormal. So whatever was going on seemed like the norm. And that is why you can't label it as a problem. At the same time, if a woman demanded attention, then definitely she was really looked down upon, because that was not normal, because she was not conforming to the existing norm. Now, today, the times have changed. Today, everyone is equal. I wouldn't say that the woman is more than the man. So when you notice that a person, look, narcissism is different from just a little arrogance and just a little boisterousness. It is an intense and it's a discomfort. If I am not the center of attention, it's as if I can't breathe. It's as if I would go into a panic attack because I'm not the center of attention. How could you not give me this importance? I have seen on an everyday basis, I see at least one couple a day, with a narcissistic personality problem. I don't end up seeing a mother talking about her son or her daughter as much. It is usually in couples, because only in close romantic relationships does this trait even come out. Because unless you're with that partner, you're closest and knowing that person deeply, so your interactions, the narcissism will be most evident. So today, generally, the tolerance of people is a little lower than it ever was before. And also, we notice that people are more mindful of their own rights. They are a little more on self-respect, which is good. So everybody says, hey, I don't deserve to be treated like this. And normally, if there's a difference between a couple, they'll talk it out, but you cannot talk it out with a narcissist, because they will twist the story and it will come back on you. So the new term also, which I'm sure you're aware of, is trauma bonding, in which the narcissistic person is inflicting trauma on the partner in a way. It's a form of emotional abuse, not really physical abuse as much, but it's more of emotional abuse. And when you're inflicting that trauma, the other person is kind of believing that they are at fault. So this whole...
Let's stop, because you are master in this subject. I have read some bit, like I've been watching Dr. Ramani, Anita, Dr. Mani. So we kind of know, maybe people who are here, or maybe even I don't know.
About NPD.
Yeah. So let's understand first what is NPD or narcissist or disorder. Are they different, or what is it?
No. NPD is narcissistic personality disorder. So generally in mental health, we have these, we call it axis 1 disorders and axis 2 disorders. So axis 1 is a mainstream problem, like anxiety, depression, schizophrenia. Everyone's heard of these terms, that this is what a mental disorder is. But axis 2 is those subtle disorders in which you don't feel as much pain as you inflict on other people. So axis 2 is known as personality disorder, and narcissistic personality is one such variety of a personality disorder. It is defined by an incessant and continuous need to be the center of attention and a discomfort when you are not. And alongside with treating me important, the narcissist would think there is no empathy or regard for the opposite person. So it doesn't matter how bad you might feel, but you have to treat me important. So when we have a combination of that need for self-importance, that absolute lack of empathy, and it is deep down on a background of low self-esteem. It's not that this person is very evolved, is actually great, and that is why I expect that other people should treat me great. This happens simply because the self-esteem is low. So it's a way of counteracting that deep down you feel small and low, but on the outside you want to show the opposite. And that is why you put yourself out to be extremely high and big. So this is what the narcissistic personality disorder
I will,
syndrome.
before you move forward, I have two questions. So one, if I ask my audience, everybody will start relating to their partner, and whether male or female, they all will say, oh, there's something in my partner also.
Some
There's,
traits. So
so
that's again a difference. A full-fledged disorder is very different. I think we all have traits. Just like we all feel sad and we may not be depressed. Likewise, we all have slightly narcissistic traits in the sense we are self-focused, and that's self-preserving, and that's normal. But only when it goes beyond that, we are so self-focused that we lose regard for others, that we completely don't empathize with someone. Now, you and I may still be a little selfish at times, just saying sometimes we focus on ourselves, not selfish. We focus on ourselves. But if there are times when we have complete disregard for someone else, along with the other syndrome complex, then we call it NPD. So otherwise, we can say narcissistic traits, but we
okay.
won't say that the person is NPD. That's a pretty strong word. I don't think there are those many NPDs around. There are NPDs, but everyone who's just focusing on themselves is not NPD.
So how do you identify it?
Typically, of course, I would not ask anybody to identify it by themselves. You obviously need a professional because we study it, and it's important that we look at the entire syndrome complex. The question is not, I did an X-ray and I saw that this is tuberculosis. It's important to identify. More than anything here, I think when you're seeing something is going wrong in your relationship, when you're seeing that your relationship, you're feeling traumatized at an emotional level, it's not just a little selfishness, it's deep trauma that an NPD is going to inflict on you. So I think in a relationship, when you're feeling a sense of toxicity, you're feeling a sense of being stuck, and you're not able to let go because this opposite person is almost controlling you, that is when you start thinking that this could be a sign of narcissistic personality. Like I have couples coming to me, and let's say one partner is letting me know of some time that this other partner did something wrong. But when this person talks to the narcissistic partner, the knack with which the narcissistic partner twists it and makes the person feel that you are wrong for even not trusting me. That's a classic sign, because these people have that power. It's like a magic spell. So when the partner, the victim, as I call it, of the NPD relationship, feels that way, that I'm the one at fault, and is constantly made to be literally the victim of abuse, that is when you should suspect an NPD. And as we have a message, gaslighting. Absolutely. The narcissists are experts at gaslighting. So they know how to light you up and set you on fire such that you feel that, oh my God, I'm the one with the problem. They are classic.
But how exactly, can you give one example or few examples? Like everybody is intelligent, and when the other person can make you feel that you are at fault, even if the truth is there lying absolutely in front of you. How do you
identify it, or how do you deal with it? It's
how do you identify? Yeah.
But to identify it. So let's just say it's a very one partner caught the other partner, the phone. It was found some inadvertent conversation between this partner. Like, let's say person X is noticing that his partner is talking to somebody, and it looks like an extramarital relationship, and the person is getting a lot of self-importance through that conversation. And so this person questions his partner that, what are you doing? Why are you talking to someone like that? So this other partner will start screaming and crying and making a big showdown out of it. You don't even trust me. This is the level of trust that you have after all that I've done for you. Firstly, you're snooping through my phone. Then you're actually accusing me of this, so on and so forth. The hysterical drama done by that NPD is so much. I've always loved you. You know how much I do for you. So much drama that makes the complaining person feel that, yeah, she's actually right. I'm the wrong one. Firstly, why did I even pick the phone? Why did I ever suspect her? And then the behavior repeats.
And when you see the evidence of it, Then if you...
Absolutely. No, I have a client right now, let's just say she's in another country, and the partner is constantly roaming around with other women, and not giving the family any time, not giving the family any importance. So when she says, hey, I think we need to separate in this relationship, they have children, and so this father suddenly has big crying episodes. Okay. And he's talking to the children and telling the children how great a father he is and how the mother doesn't trust him and so on and so forth. So the attention again goes on the father again, including the children, that they get the attention. And this lady is she's feeling so weak, because she says, no matter what, I just give in. I attended this play by this Irish lady called Flowers Are Not Enough. This man would beat her. He would traumatize her. He would suspect her of being with other people. And then when she would feel low and sad and she would cry, he would bring her flowers. And then he would have a very nice dinner that day. And the title of that play was Flowers Are Not Enough. You've seen the movie Provoked, Aishwarya Rai, if you remember. So you saw how scared she was, but she just never knew what to do. And that he would cry, if you remember the movie. That he would cry, and then he would come back, and then he would hug her and hold her and say, you are my life. How can you ever think of leaving me? So it's such a mixed message, and the degree of trauma that he would inflict on her. So NPDs do not have memory of what they are doing. They do not have accountability. All they think of is a very myopic, immediate vision that I can see.
They don't have a memory of what they talk, you mean?
No, literally, I'm not saying they have dementia, but what I'm saying is...
Yeah, exactly. I know that they don't have dementia.
They don't realize what they're saying. They don't realize that they actually inflicted so much pain. They actually come back and make you believe that you are the one at fault. And if you spend sufficient time with a narcissist, and if in the initial stages you have started giving in and feeling that you're at fault, this toxicity, it becomes ingrained in you. So you always tend to believe that you may have done something wrong. Like I said, the first message that the person gets is, I am bad. I checked my wife's phone. I'm so bad. It doesn't matter what I found in the phone, but I'm so bad that I checked her phone. This is the way the thinking gets wired. To a third person, it looks very obvious. To me, it's very...
And so conversations, if the partner had evidences again and again, then also a narcissist personality can manipulate the person.
Absolutely, because look, anyone and everyone doesn't get stuck in the narcissist spider web, let's call it. In fact, I've been posting Instagram reels on it. So there's one reel just focused on, are you stuck in the web of an NPD? So the NPDs set out a web. I don't think all of us get stuck in it. Otherwise, there would be, the world would be a way more miserable place than it is. But you have to have a certain vulnerable personality style also to get stuck in the NPD's web. Because in the first place, you get very floored by all the affection and attention that they show. They are very, very smooth. For example, this wife, who is the wife of an NPD, in public, he will compliment her 100 times. So if she ever utters a word about her husband, ever to a friend, the friend will instantly say, are you even nuts? He's only praising you all the time. So they know how to do this. They absolutely know how to do this. Another word that Geeta has written, codependent, which is correct.
Geeta is the same person, Dr. Shefali, who was talking about getting married and realized that partner is a narcissist. So I told her that if she wants to come and share, so we will open the show to our audience in 10 minutes.
Sure. Yes. So it's important that you identify which point and how am I getting stuck? Because this is one most classic trait that, by the way, more partners of NPDs consult me than the NPDs, because they themselves don't realize that they have as much of a problem, right? The partners are the ones suffering the brunt of this. So the partners end up consulting me and ask me, doctor, what should I do? So this is a very common classic. It's almost like I'm seeing the same patient again and again when I see the relative of an NPD, because the pattern is the same. That every time the partner tries to bring it up, the NPD partner comes with a sob story, because they firmly believe that they are the victims. You see, every NPD has had a poor traumatic childhood. When they have not received the love, their sense of self and their identity has not been established. When you don't have a strong sense of your own self, you cannot feel full. And that is why you're always seeking for that fullness from someone else. So you're feeding off other people's ego and respect to feed in your own respect, which just never, ever gets completed. So that's the basic pathology. And everybody is not NPD. You may be selfish. You may be a little self-centered, but everybody doesn't become a narcissistic personality disorder who has that empty cup which you're constantly filling. They'll talk very big. They'll keep talking over and over again about the accomplishment. I heard it. I got it. But they'll talk over and over again, which means they're not full in themselves. When you are satisfied and sort of satiated with yourself and your accomplishment, you won't have to show it off so much to the world. So that is what's happening in NPD. It's not just another selfishness.
So when you talked about childhood trauma or not having feeling or achievement or a fulfillment of love and emotions, is it like kind of a most of the NPD?
All NPDs have to have it. Typically, I wouldn't say golden rule, but most NPDs have not had very positive relationships with their parents, especially the mother figure. So, and it's also known to run in families. NPDs sort of propagate themselves within families. If you have endured an experience of a parent who has been narcissistic and has used even children to feed off their own ego, these children tend to grow up to be more narcissistic because their cup of ego is also empty. If a parent's cup of ego was empty, they obviously didn't make you feel full and complete, and they didn't give you that love and care and respect that you needed. So that person becomes so empty. Yeah.
Father figure, I know, because I have seen mostly men more egoistic, more rude or whatever. Like there's a male personality signs and symptoms, you can say. But mothers, when you say that it comes from mother, I cannot relate with it. That
I have several people I'm seeing on a regular basis, and it's usually the opposite gender. So when you have a narcissistic mother, typically her male child tends to develop narcissism because it's the attention that we need from the opposite gender parent, which is very important for the psychological development. Even from the times of Sigmund Freud, this is that the kind of, someone's mentioned that every traumatic incident does not lead to NPD. Absolutely, I didn't say, but it's the degree of trauma and what level. If you beat a child, the child doesn't become narcissistic. We're talking of very deep level emotional trauma. That's why the diagnosis of NPD is not so trivial that every second person would be able to make it. It's a very detailed analysis, even by a mental health professional who's very proficient. Everybody doesn't even deal with personality disorders on an everyday level. Anxiety and depression are more regular disorders which we see more commonly. So I'm not saying that every person with childhood trauma develops it, but it's the degree of emotional trauma which affects your inner working model. It's called IWM, or your inner schema, which you see the world. So if you see yourself as incomplete, you will always seek to complete yourself from someone else. And typically it is the romantic partner who has to bear the brunt because that's the person you're the closest to. So that is where
that emotional void never gets fulfilled. Like it's not something that you deal with it, fulfill it, or it will always be empty.
How does one just deal with it and fulfill it? Because you need somebody to tell you in your subconscious traits and in your subconscious Sigmund Freudian development, which point there was that trauma and at which point your development ceased. So it's not just, hey, identify your trauma, heal it, and be done with NPD. Yes, that is what I do as an expert in the field, but it takes a lot of time to accept that this is what I am missing, because you're so stuck in the rut of I just need to fulfill myself.
So basically, they say the child mostly has created memories till the age of 3 or 5. So traumas happen when they don't
even have a specified age for trauma. In many cases, there was this term you would have heard, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which Initially, we thought PTSD is only for physical trauma or rape and things like that. But no, any small negative event, if a child didn't do well in an exam and was told by the parents that you're a useless loser and you will always stay a loser, that is trauma. That is deep emotional trauma based on the way the kid took it. Because the next exam that the child fails, he will jump from the top floor and do something untoward to himself. Now, every child doesn't do that. But why did this child do so? Because his IWM, inner working model, or your internal schema, was one of complete incompleteness, right? So that is why you evolve as an incomplete person. The example I gave is not essentially NPD, because if the person wants to counteract that and say that, no, I am capable and I am full, but then you need to feed off the ego and the respect from the world. So then you keep demanding that respect, even though deep down, it's basically like an empty vessel. An empty, hollow vessel always makes more noise. So that is essentially the best way to describe an NPD. Do you know the story of Narcissus? The name of the Greek, the origin of narcissistic comes from Narcissus. So Narcissus was so proud of the way he looked that he was looking at the stream and he was looking at how beautiful he looked, and he said that I want that beautiful person. So he jumped in and he drowned. What was most important was such deep love for yourself that I have never seen anything as beautiful as that. So that is the origin of the word narcissism. You can't see beyond yourself, because normally you and I, we feel good when we do things for the world. We do things to make a difference. That makes us complete. At least that's the way I look at myself. What is my purpose? To do more, not to do more for myself. That's no fun. But for the narcissist, the inner model is so incomplete that you have to feed off others. And that is why you cannot, unfortunately, look at other people for who they are. You just look at it from your point of view.
So do they reflect it on the partner? Because once you're talking, like when you say that the narcissist is empty vessel who wants more fulfillment and self-validation, so the partner who is in close proximity with the person narcissist, it will always be kind of passing on to the person, and then
absolutely. And look, I understand that a narcissist himself or herself is a victim who has not gotten what she wanted or he wanted. But also the narcissists they know what they are doing, but it's just that it serves them well. So they keep doing it. Like I mentioned,
is it knowingly, or is it beyond their control? So again, either you get empathy or you get angry, because you know that that person is doing it consciously, or and it's not in the control. It's control.
Everything in mental health disorders, it's very tough, to talk about. Like I just even wrote my book, right? I was mentioning to you my book on depression. The one disclaimer I have put at the end of the book, that I can say that there are brain chemicals causing depression. Likewise, there are brain chemicals causing an NPD, or there is your environment and the lack of love and support that you didn't get that in your childhood. So you have that sense of incompleteness. But it still doesn't mean that you can keep inflicting harm on other people, that you tell the whole world that your wife is amazing, but you treat her really badly, so that when she goes to someone else for help, everybody laughs at her and says you are, totally under a misconception. So it is conscious, but in its own way, it is unconscious. So until and unless this NPD actually realizes that this partner of mine will leave me, they are broken. They are completely broken. They will cry, they will beg, they will plead. That's when the real mouse, you'll see that. But otherwise, you'll see the mouse roaring like a tiger and coming to bite you like a tiger. So how does one deal with a situation like that?
Yeah, the poor partner will always be confused and like kind of more than.
Absolutely. That is why you've heard the word trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is classically the partner of an NPD, the partner of a person who is toxic. So the person in the trauma bond is always confused. I did something wrong. Maybe I did something wrong. That is why the person is like that. Otherwise, this person wouldn't be like that. He's nice to the people outside. So maybe the fault is with me. That is what a trauma bond is, that you actually are deeply and strongly in love with the person who is torturing you. That is a very classic. So the partner, you're right, confusion. because you get confused and you don't know what to do. You know, the
Because you
narcissistic,
beat yourself up that, okay, the
Absolutely. I feel
kind of varied emotion the partner must be going through, sometimes extreme love, sometimes extreme hate, sometimes
Yes.
frustration, helplessness. Oh my God,
they
it's
need
like,
an NPD support groups. I mean, the partners of NPDs need more emotional support than NPDs themselves. NPDs need, yes, a dose to correct their disorder, but the partners need the right smart strategies that set your boundaries. For example, you know, in fact, I'm posting a video right after this show on 7 tips to tackle, you know, with dealing with an NPD. Point number 1, you have to educate yourself about the condition. You should not be confused. You should know, yeah, he is NPD. I know he loves me. I know I love him. I have to find a way around this. That maturity versus I'm the bad one, he's the right one. No, sometimes he's the bad one, I am the victim. That conversation in your head is not helping. So you have to educate yourself about the condition so that you can take a logical stance versus an emotional stance to the condition. So that awareness is important. I think many people don't know. That is why they get confused. If you know, you won't be confused.
so 7 points, we will share the video, but quickly, can you tell, then we will invite audience also.
Sure. So point number 1, educate yourself very well about the condition. Point number 2, set your boundaries. You know, you normally think that let me do this, then this person won't get angry. Or let me behave like this, then this person will not get worked up and then he will not behave badly with me and then there won't be a problem. So set your boundaries. Don't change yourself so that the other person changes. You set your boundaries and say, this will work with me and this won't. Normally, nobody does that with an NPD. They're always giving in. You know, so point number 1, educate yourself about the condition, set your boundaries. Be assertive. You know, with an NPD, it's very tough to be assertive, to just put your point forward and also let people know that your needs also need to be met. So because you fall into that trap, your needs are usually unmet and that leaves you completely in a soup and the mixed signals, the whole confusion. So learn to be assertive, to put your best foot forward. Number 4, don't cover up for the person. You know, in public, when someone says, oh, he's really praising you, oh, he's the best husband, you say, I don't know how he says that because in front of me, he's not always like that. So let people know, because when you don't let people know, you're isolating yourself in a way and becoming more and more alone. And when you are alone, unfortunately, you will be lonely and sad and very, very unhelped in the situation, which is where the helplessness would set in. So speak up, don't cover up for them. There are plenty of people who even have physical injuries. I know women who get physical injuries through a tiff or a physical fight, and then they just cover up for their partner because he's just so nice. And the same like the story, the flowers are not enough, where she would get bruised and beaten up, but she would always cover up because of all the love and the everything that came in later. So don't cover up for them. Speak to people, speak to friends, speak to family, because as much as you think that they won't support you, they are your only support system. Because you can't just be you and the NPD do not, generally one person and their partner do not complete a world. You need people around you. We're social creatures. So you have to reach out and ask for help. And above all, it's very important to seek professional help. Because the way we understand the problem, the way we offer customized solutions to every situation, like the way I work with clients, I make them record every incident. You know, a lot of behavior observation. Oh, this happened, then this happened. Then what did you say? Because sometimes gaslighting, yes, you are gaslit, but then you are also doing something to irk the other person because you're reacting emotionally. I'm not saying that it's unnatural. I've seen couples abusing each other in front of me. And I ask them, how does it help? It doesn't help, but I feel better. You feel better, but you're not improving the situation. So seek professional help, because you will get that objective, unbiased advice, which you will not get otherwise. You know, friends are bound to be biased. You talk to your partner's friend, they will take his side. You talk to your family, obviously they'll take your side and they'll give you emotional support. But what about that logical solution? That's important, which you might not get. So I think it's very important to seek professional help for this.
Absolutely. Every point made sense. So Geeta is, we will invite Geeta to speak. She wanted to share. I'm just switching off the AC. Rohit, unmute Geeta.
Yeah, already did.
Yes, Geeta.
Okay, hi. I'm not going to be visible if that's okay for the
No,
time being.
we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I was married to this person for 32 years, and I've gone through everything that you've talked about.
Hmm.
Um, there's just two things that I do want to very clearly call out here. One is that we need to just keep the hope up, because a lot of people believe that there is no other way. If I stay in the marriage, I'll be destroyed. If I leave the marriage, unfortunately for a lot of people, it is not possible to leave the marriage.
Hmm.
So in that case, obviously the kind of input that is required is very different, which is that setting boundaries, keeping a diary of your reactions, becoming as aware as possible, because in this case knowledge really is power.
Correct.
It does give you that sense of
No, but
empowerment.
there are ways you can break the power of the NPD. You just need to be
To be, yeah,
aware of those. Unfortunately, when
yeah,
the NPD situation has become so serious, we've
yeah,
got kids and we've got
yes,
that situation coming in, that we just get helpless.
absolutely,
That's where I feel that empowerment is important. I think we
yeah,
need to talk more. We need more of support groups. I'm telling you,
yeah,
when 10 NPD partners sit together, they're like, oh my God, I'm not alone.
not
I have seen
exactly,
that from people I see.
yeah,
So that support system is very important.
is very important, absolutely, yeah. So that is and the two other strategies that I did also take, I did use and found very useful. One is to completely stop depending on the person. You just take care of your own needs completely, totally, whether they are financial, emotional.
Autonomy is important. The moment you
Yeah,
become dependent, the person
yes,
feels that he has more power over you.
yeah,
Male and female
yeah,
both. It depends on
absolutely.
your
And
emotional.
have a life of your own. You really, really do need to have a life of your own, because that is
But
where your
Rita,
sanity.
you yourself may realize it. I think because you say you've been in such a relationship, you realize how much you
Yes.
get cut off from the outside world.
Exactly. So,
You
which
tend
is
to get
why I thought
so
it's
cut off.
important to actually speak up. And I've also taken it up. It's not a professional thing that I do, because that's not my profession. I have, thankfully, another profession. But I actually do speak to people who come to me. And now, because I have been talking, so much about it,
Very good.
there are
That's
a lot of
very
people
nice.
who are coming to me and, reaching out and asking. And I just find it, just gratifying that I'm able to help somebody,
Correct.
you know
No,
because
I love that. I mean, I'd love to be in touch with you, even at another time. So please, get in touch and find a way as to how we can help more people around with this.
thank you so much, and
So
I
do
hope this has helped somebody here as well. Thank you, and thanks, Sipping Thoughts, as well, for giving me this opportunity to speak out.
Thanks,
Thank you, Geeta. Every conversation is important. That is what we do.
because your voice has to be heard.
Yeah. So I have a question here. When at what stage do we know that this person we should part ways with the person, or we should still try? Is it something that is completely reversible or workable?
I think if you work on it, everything is workable. But that's when I think don't make any of these big decisions without professional guidance. So you should definitely try, and that's what I've seen in my practice. A lot of couples come to me and they say, "Do I have to separate?" I said, "No, I think we can work on it." But we, in the sense, all of us, it's not that I alone as a professional can work on it. So I always ask people to give it time, though a lot of them are pretty clear because they've done their homework and they've done their analysis. Like Geeta mentioned, 32 years is a long time, to
Yeah, you
deal
almost
with
lived
that.
your life and now it's like
It's
damage
more
control.
than half of your life, because life
Yeah.
really begins only at 2025. Before that, we're kids. So if you spend 32 years with somebody, which would typically be after the age of 22, it's inappropriate. But nonetheless, neuroplasticity, we change from cradle to the grave. So we can have a great life at any age. It's all about starting today. But why wait so long? Why lose precious time feeling sad and upset and traumatized and gaslit? So be fair to yourself. Don't just get clouded in that fog that the person generates around you and isolates you from the rest of the world. Look around. There are good relationships. It is possible that you can also be happy. So don't accept unhappiness or any substandard behavior simply because you are not worthy enough or that's what you think. So I think Our own self-respect also matters. The moment your self-respect is high, you know how to speak up for yourself, you know how to set your own boundaries. I don't think you'll get caught in the NPD trap. Like I said, every fly doesn't get caught in that spider's web. So every person doesn't get caught in the NPD trap. It's the extra nice, extra naive, extra empathic, wanting to make it work, that I can't fail. Sometimes egoistic, my relationship can't fail. So many things come in the way in which we feed the abnormal relationship and the toxicity keeps growing. So we need to change that.
Yeah. So there's anybody who had raised hand, Rohit? Anybody else?
Priyanko Das had raised the hand.
Yeah, Priyanko and Rimanshu has question. Can I? Yeah.
Priyanka, you want to ask?
Priyanko Das, my hand is not up anymore.
Okay, so there's a question: can an individual with NPD become toxic or make various fake statements? Can they play the victim cards? So that's exactly, I think, you can answer.
That's part of the definition. That is what they do. The NPDs don't always have real things to brag about. Everything they talk may not be false, but it's always exaggerated, or it's a slightly twisted version of reality. So at times, yes, they would bring up things which would be complete imagination, but at other times, you'll also notice that they twist the reality to their advantage, so that it always appears that they are the victim, and they'll never appear like perpetrators of the crime. And like I said, there will be one partner on one side of the world who bears the brunt of the narcissism, and on the other side, they are smooth, they are respectful, they have that aura about themselves, they're charming, they'll be pleasers to the whole world, such that it becomes impossible. So imagine all the negativity which you have not expressed to the world comes and gets expressed on that one poor partner. So it's a very, very intense burden on that one partner.
Dr. Shefali, one of the conversation was where this NPD person, the narcissist person, he doesn't thrive, or she doesn't thrive in the opposite, like the partner's friend, safer, where it's like, I am not able to draft it well, but it is basically when the partner knows that I am not going to thrive because the partner has a very big social circle where I won't be
fit.
fired.
Saying that the narcissist will not fit in his partner's circle, his or her partner's circle.
Okay.
So is that your question?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because they have very low self-esteem. They are definitely envious of their partner, because their partner will usually be a nice person. See, the partner of a narcissist will not be a narcissist. The partner of the narcissistic person who's fallen into the trap will be a very nice, very kind, very empathic person who wants to understand, who has a tendency to take the guilt. Now, such a person in general, because of his kindness, his or her kindness and empathy and understanding nature, will generally have good friends. But this narcissist will see to it that this person, his partner, doesn't get that support, because he doesn't want his or her partner to succeed.
It's basically not all are the victim of a narcissist. It's a trap that whosoever is very soft.
Whoever falls into the trap, yes. There are enough such relationships which at the outset, the partner will say, this is a wrong relationship, he's narcissistic. I've seen couples split within 2 months of marriage also. And then there are some who go on for, like how Geeta mentioned, 32 years. It's that knack of how they trap you. The best of us could get trapped. You just never know. You know, it's just how the spider basically sets out his web to catch home.
So complicated and yet so clear. Well, let me. Who was it? Rohit? I know we have somebody else raised hand.
Rimanshu.
No, there was another person before Rimanshu.
Yeah, I requested him.
Anyways, whoever is ready can share.
Can I speak, Rimanshu, this side?
Yeah, Rimanshu, share and quickly share. Now we have 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been married for 24 years. I feel I'm stuck up in the web of a narcissist personality disorder in my husband, my sister-in-law, and my mother-in-law.
Okay.
So majority, I'm a radiologist. with a good success. I'm an author blogger. I have around 15 books I have published. मतलब I'll speak in Hindi also. मतलब सब कुछ जैसे है ना कि घर पे आके you become a -100. Everywhere else आप अच्छे हो. I have 2 grown-up children. अभी recently when I went to Delhi and spoke to my father, पहले तो मेरी फैमिली को समझ में नहीं आता था. I'll say honestly, it took me around 20 years to explain to them, this is not normal. मैं कहाँ तक adjust करूँ? मतलब मैं IIM में जो हमारा मेडिकल प्लेटफॉर्म है उसमें मैं विड्रॉ करती, अपनी सोसाइटीज में विड्रॉ करती. Everywhere I withdrew, but then I thought this is not how things are going to work. ये तो मुझे दबाते ही जाते हैं. I'm an independent girl, born and brought up in Delhi. मतलब अब मैं काफी टाइम से कंफ्यूज हूँ. What to do? Can I make this relationship work? Because it's always I feel जैसे I'm latching on to this relationship.
देखिए हिमांशु, ताली एक हाथ से नहीं बजती, and plus of course it's a complex case. Like I spend hours and weeks and sometimes years, you know, with couples with NPD. So unfortunately, in a few minutes, I may not be able to give you a full
definitely.
But I think that I don't know. Is your husband also a doctor? I mean, I understand you're a doctor. So, but all the more then I feel that stigma that, you know, I don't want to go to a psychiatrist. I think within the medical profession, we see more of that, but people refuse to believe that something is wrong with me. So I think what you could try telling him is, can we go for couples therapy? And then, you know, you can approach.
I've asked him so many times. They say, "Tumhe problem hai, tum jao." I've in fact.
So I would still say what I tell a lot of couples when I deal with the partners of the NPD, I talk to one partner and then I give them ideas as to how to bring them in. You know, so you even go back and say, "Ha, mere mein problem hai, but doctor wanted to talk to you about me." That's one way to just bring in the person, because you know you can't just whip a person and bring them into therapy.
Definitely.
But you just have to be smart. So that's one technique I say कि मैं partner से, जैसे मैंने आपसे session लिया और मैं आपको कहूँ कि आप जाके उनसे कहिए कि I had a session क्योंकि मुझे पता नहीं headache हो रहे थे, मुझे tension आ रहा था, तो मेरे डॉक्टर ने कहा है that she would like to talk to you about what's going on with me. So it's one way of approaching, you know, you have to just break that ego barrier first and then we can take it ahead. We just have to try.
So let's take another, Himanshu, we have Dr. Shefali details with us, so anywhere we can connect with her. So Asma was there before, and we just would request you to quickly speak.
We'll make it short, so I'll try to give it the best.
Yeah, requested Asma.
Yeah, doctor, I have an issue. I personally feel my husband is narcissistic, and we have been married for 5 years. But you know, I was in a mindset to continue the marriage or not to continue. But you know, I have a baby now. Earlier, I was not having a baby, so my baby is 1.5 years old. So it is not an extreme case of where I have to go through a physical abuse or something. And out of the 5 years of marriage, probably I have been with my parents' house for 3.5 years, probably because of work or excuses. I was trying to stay away from him. But what I feel as a wife, as a human being, as a individual, I surely don't want to be with a person. But being a mother, having a child, he has his good sides, he has his bad sides. As we know, it's not always one thing. So I always have this challenge now whenever I'm having an issue. Okay, being a wife, if I wanted to separate, but being a mother of a child, how fair it would be.
I get it. I get your question. It's a very personal statement. So on a public forum, I don't know if I can tell you, hey, this is the golden rule. If your partner is narcissistic, it's not that black and white. So I think it definitely needs a lot of deeper consideration as to what you really want. I can't tell you directly that if you didn't have a kid, you should leave him, and just because you have a kid, you have to stay with him. I don't think the world is so simple.
No, I do understand. But what I'm trying to say, it is bad. It's not that bad that I should leave him, kind of a thing. But still, I'm somehow feel I'm, missing on the quality of life I could have.
If you are feeling that your life and your love is incomplete, then we need to change the status quo. So I think you could talk to me, you could talk to some other professional who you trust, but definitely a conversation would help to know what your mind is really going through, because I don't want you to be going through the trauma also, because you will become the classic trauma bond that you will start loving your victimizer because you just need to be in that relationship. So I think we could talk, you need some professional guidance on how to break that confusion.
Okay, thank you. Probably we need to connect one-on-one.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, this is basically a conversation we do largely on a very wide
Public platform.
spectrum.
Yeah, it's very, individual suggestions become hard, but yeah, grossly, I would say the status quo, if you're not happy, then we need to change. Maybe you will change, maybe we need to help him change, but we can figure it out.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
Smita.
Smita.
Smita is our regular.
Yeah. Also, Mudit sir has question.
Yeah.
Hi, Smita.
Good evening,
Hi,
everyone.
Smita.
I'll be very quick. Hi, Meeta. Hi, Dr. Shefali. We've been talking about spouses only, but, I personally faced an issue with, my father-in-law, right? So, the problem is, when they're aging, one, because of the age factor, a lot of things come in, they become more self-centered. But a person who's always been self-centered, you can't let go, right? They are our responsibility. So it's, very tricky situation, especially when children are growing up. You can't be rude to them, you can't ignore them, because they are in the process of learning, right? So how do you suggest one deals with it? It's very tricky, and please
Again,
help.
yeah, I mean, it's of course a very personalized question, Smita, because you got to see the dynamics. I typically get this middle generation, people whose parents-in-law could have been narcissistic, and then they even talk of their children, how they are being affected by it, and then your kids will be back answering, and then the in-laws will be further. There would be a very disrupted household, kind of a situation. But I think we've got to see, the parents-in-law, they could be getting into depression, at that age. Even most normal and happy people could start feeling negative because of the whole retirement situation and that loss of power, because with age and with physical disability, you tend to lose that power that you once had. So it worsens the NPD status. Typically, we would think that the NPD becomes less narcissistic with growing time, but it's just that the expression changes. So there could be a lot more frustration, and the depression that sets in. You normally think that I actually wanted to talk about my book also. I just released this book, Why Do I Feel So Sad? It's of course focused on, it says your pathway to healing depression, but I was just, for all ages, the book I was mentioning about depression in old age, that there is a variety of depression that I've written even in the book about agitated depression. So you'll just see the person getting angry and upset and frustrated, but the person is actually depressed. So we need to look at all these, confounding factors which may be contributing to so much of a person's abnormal behavior. Like I said, in the first place, the narcissist deserves, like, my heart goes out to the narcissist who is actually feeling so lost and so alone and so empty inside. It's just that some people who are lost, alone, and empty have internalizing behaviors like depression, in which they get lost and they sit in a corner, versus like a narcissist, you have an externalizing behavior in which you're going to be angry and boisterous and attention seeking. So you don't end up drawing the same empathy that you would otherwise. But I think a more individual personalized discussion and even an explanation, let's say, to the next generation about how they could behave and minimize the interaction, but try to make whatever little bit of interaction less negative and more towards the positive side. Look, a narcissist, you give them a little bit of the right kind of non-pathological attention, they will still be happy. But that's where we need to work together on the smart ways to help them overcome their emptiness, so that everyone's happy then in the equation. So that's the knack, but it comes in a more customized and personalized discussion. But basically, that's what you need to do. Look at them not as angry, attention-seeking devils, but more like people who are little empty cups who just want to be filled. So fill them up with something good, and then they will not make noise.
Yeah, but and you need to have some tactics, some kind of coping mechanism also.
Yeah,
so
it takes a lot. It's not easy. I mean, I'm the expert sitting and talking and giving advice, but I'm telling you, it's not easy. So it's hard, and I empathize with you.
Yeah, and Rohit, who's next? We just have 4 minutes.
Yeah, Mudit sir has question.
Our conversation cannot complete without Mudit
no.
sir.
Yeah, we need one male perspective also, man. Yeah.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I'm fortunate I've not had a NPD spouse, but I've had a NPD family member at work. And one thing is, I just want to give further say what Dr. Batra said. Go into the other person's world. Don't say, why me, why me? Because when you buzz to see how they behave, then you'll deal with them better, because they will never behave like that with an equal. Another bully, they will never behave this thing. A person who's meek, they will bully. But if you be like a bully to them, then they shut up. So that is one
They know
cardinal rule I
where
discovered.
to, where
Yeah,
they
they know where to this thing.
like,
So
for
if
example, I know a client of mine, his wife sees me, so narcissistic, the guy, and his mother is very narcissistic. So she trashes him. She trashes him and thrashes him and really puts him down, and he doesn't say a word. But
so,
then it comes
that's
out
why
on the partner. It comes out on the
true.
partner in such a huge way.
No, so
So,
that's I was just saying that if you give it back to the NPD, then they shut up. Rather than trying to be accommodative and trying to understand them. So the
Mudhaji,
first
I
rule
have
is
another
don't be
friend,
this thing. Yeah.
who has similar story, who's elder brother, and it took him 20 years, very dynamic guy. So when we are talking about only couples relationship, very dynamic guy. And then suddenly he realized after years that it was my elder brother who has been, who's a narcissist. So it's
No,
very,
so you have bosses.
no,
See, a
no.
lot of your time it's the employees.
No,
who
no.
are
I will,
doing it.
Meeta ji, I'll put it that they know all along. It's not that it takes 20 years to know.
oh,
You know
no.
immediately. But the point is, one becomes, because one is
I think, ma'am, some network issue.
Yeah.
And here I am.
so it's just that if you are not a bullying type, then there's problem for you. The recipient have problems, not the NPD person. These are all tactics they employ, either knowingly or unknowingly. That I don't know. But
I
I
think
wanted to
it
ask her.
takes a
Yeah.
while to, yeah. Oh, sorry, ask because
No. It happens. It takes a bloody long while. Not only a while. It takes, because one is always communicating to oneself. I won't behave like that. So why is that person doing it? So you have to get out of your world. You go into the other person's what do you call, space zone. Why they are behaving, and then you'll get it. No, I just wanted to ask Dr. Batra: is it congenital from birth, these NPD people, or it develops over a life? Because everyone goes through trauma in childhood and otherwise. Some become NPD, some don't become. So is it congenital, or is just
See, Mujit, everyone
yeah.
goes through trauma in childhood. I'm not sure if that's the, on a very
Uh,
superficial level, yes, that statement is
so
right. Everybody goes through something or the other in childhood. But there are two aspects to it, the whole genetic and the environmental components. So today's world, with the way the world is moving in the mental health scenario, what we believe and propagate is neuroplasticity, which means that from the cradle to the grave, you are getting transformed. So I don't focus as much on the congenital part, the nature versus nurture. So congenital, we would say, is the nature that is we cannot change, and the nurture is what happens throughout life. So I think,
want to just add to what you're saying. Yeah, I know, I got you. The same conditions which give rise to an NPD gives also to an empath person. Both the conditions are the same.
correct, because you may either go through trauma and become very empathic towards the world, or you'll go through trauma and you will
become a dada.
There's no prediction as to what, like, if you
it.
get the right, you have an NPD parent, for example, but you have very good support from outside, then your cup is full, then you won't become NPD. So there's just so much of environmental influence.
Right.
So I think environment takes the precedence here. A good environment can improve anyone.
Yeah, thank you.
One last question, Dr. Shefali. Normally, when somebody is shouting, I don't know, NPD has, you mentioned that this kind of a personality, they shout and scream.
Actually, they're not so openly aggressive. They're more passively aggressive. They don't shout and scream. They would taunt, and they would have other methods like gaslighting, for example, doing things very subtly and putting you down such that you can't stand up for yourself. This shouting is not because you're too smart to shout.
My God, it's like so confusing, this personality, that you should have empathy for them, or you should kind of
I'm going to design a full training course on NPD management, understand NPD signs and symptoms and how they present, how they can confuse you. We'll do something.
Because in India, otherwise also, it's the knowledge bank is very still not
limited. I mean,
Yeah.
we have the internet, but I still think we want something more authentic. So
Advisors and
I will
friends
try
and
to
family,
discuss
everybody is ready to give you some advice, and then
Yeah.
internet gives you advice. So it's like you have to watch your step very, very,
Oh,
very.
today we have so much AI and we have ChatGPT and we have
So I put my
ChatGPT-based
questions through
therapy.
ChatGPT only.
So no,
That
ChatGPT-based therapy. People are saying we won't need professionals like you anymore because everybody will talk to ChatGPT.
No, but
But
that's very scary.
No,
That's,
no, no.
it's definitely scary. It's scary for me, but we see
so
where the world is going.
yeah. So we will share your book link on our book club group. If you want to join the group, you can. I'll share the link with you.
Thank
And because yeah, I've shared I will share the link also. You can share the link with us. We will share on our book club group. Because last week we talked about urban loneliness, and this was something exactly what we talked. I wish I knew you.
We'll talk
Then,
again.
so maybe another session we will do on that, either on book club or Let's Talk, but we must.
All right.
So on that note, it's 5:03. Time to say bye. See you next week. And Dr. Shefali, extra thank you to you, because as I mentioned in the very beginning, it took me 3 years to finally talk about this topic. I couldn't find anybody where I thought that they would do justice to it. And thankfully, I met you, and it's been a right choice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Muditji. Thank you, Smita.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for being here.